Huh?
Okay, now question number 2 is a perfect example of a level 4 too right to be wrong problem. This particular problem is really popular on the SAT, and most kids just stare at it for 2 or 3 minutes and then leave it blank, move to the next one. But for you, it will be easy. Now, anytime you're dealing with exponents, okay, I would recommend keeping the numbers low, okay? If you make r equal to 10, you're going to have all kinds of scientific notation, okay? So when you're dealing with exponents, make a conscious decision to keep the math easy by keeping the numbers low, okay? Now in this particular example, you're told that r is non-negative, all right? So what does that mean? That means that it can't be negative, all right? So let's think about a positive number and then a low number at that. Now, I am not one that likes to do a lot of math, so I'm going to volunteer my own number here, and I'm going to make that number equal to 1. Okay, I'm going to make r 1. Okay, now, r to the 9th is t. So what is 1 to the 9th? It's 1, right? So t is 1. And r to the 7th is q. So 1 to the 7th is q. So in this instance, r, t, and q are all 1. Now, your math teacher may have a problem with that, okay? But I don't care what your math teacher thinks, because College Board really doesn't make a distinction between variables. By definition, because these are 3 separate letters, they should be 3 separate values. But having said that, okay, if you took 3 separate tests, test X, test Y, and test Z, and got 100 on all 3 of them, then X would equal 100, Y would equal 100, and Z would equal 100. So X, Y, and Z would all be 100, and they would represent 3 distinct actions. And that's what is there is the difference in a nutshell between math class math and real world math. In math class math, the number does not represent an event or a value. It just represents the number, 5 or 2 or whatever. In the real world, the number represents a grade, mileage, dollars, whatever, okay? And because of that, you can have the same variable and the same value. I mean, you would no more take 3 tests and score 100 on each one. Test X, 100. Test Y 100, test Z 100, where X, Y, and Z is 100. Your math teacher wouldn't come back and then say, well, now listen, I mean, I know you only took 1 test, right? Or suppose you had 3 friends and they all live 5 miles from you. Friend A lived 5 miles from you. Friend B lives 5 miles from you. And friend C lives 5 miles from you. So the distance to friends A, B, and C's house is all 5. Is your math teacher going to tell you you only have 1 friend? Of course not. And that's the limitation with the math class math. It stays in the classroom where it's of no value. Again, College Board could care less. They don't make a distinction between variables of the same value. So legitimately speaking, when we made R1, 1 to the 9th became T. When we made R1, 1 to the 7th became Q. Now we just got to find what R to the 11th is. Notice variables stacked vertically in box. Make sure that you're doing that in your syllabus. Okay, now R to the 11th is what? 1 to the 11th, and 1 to the 11th is 1. So I'm looking for 1 as an answer choice here. Now I look down here and I don't see a 1. That doesn't mean I did anything wrong. Remember, when I made R1, R to the 7th became Q, and so Q is 1. So this right here, Q plus 11 is 1 plus 11, which is 12. Okay, and 12 does not equal 1. Remember, we're looking for 1, which is the value of R to the 11th. Okay, T squared plus Q is 1 squared plus 1, which is 2. That's not 1. T squared over Q is 1 squared over 1, which is 1. Ah, we've got a winner. The question is it the only winner? So we have to remember, we have to make sure D and E don't work before we can say for certain that C is the right value. And we'll get to that in the next one. 2t plus q to the 5th This is 2 times 1 plus 1 to the 5th. So that equals 3. So that one's done. This is 1 to the 5th plus 1 to the 6th, which is 2. So that one's done. So there you go. This showed up on a SAT, almost the exact same problem, about 3 years ago. And I plugged 1 in, and it worked fine. Now, if you plugged in 2, it's, you know, if you plugged in 2, then you're dealing with, you know, r to the 9th is t, so like t is 512, and q is, you know, 128 or something like that. And then r to the 11th is 2048. And so this math over here starts to get a lot more involved. That's why it's nice to keep R1, okay? I mean, again, you bend the difficulty level of the SAT to the level that you're comfortable dealing with. I like it to be easy, so I didn't make R2 or 3 or 4, okay? When you're dealing with exponents, the higher the number, the larger these numbers are going to be, and the harder the math associated with it. So keep the numbers low, and you'll be fine. Okay? Now, I want to work number 3. 3 is a very important problem. Begins to explore this whole idea that you can have multiple right answer choices. So I'm going to get question 3 up on the board, and then I want to work it together. And then one other thing. Let's make sure that when you're writing down the explanations in your syllabus that you're doing it exactly like this, okay? Don't just be circling C as the right answer and not labeling your variables, you know, boxing them, stacking them vertically, writing the answer out beside it and circling it. You know, this whole system, this is an entire system, not just in terms of a system that shows you how to work the problem. It's a system that shows you how to organize the problem for simplicity's sake, okay? So remember, open exchanges, variable stacked vertically and boxed, answer circled behind the answer. Or the answer to the question, in this case, what is r to the 11th? You're going to circle that by the variables, you know, that you've defined. All right? So coming up, question number 3.